like to call the meeting of September 3rd to order. As a reminder to council members, your microphones are currently active. Just to let you know, at this time, will the city clerk please call roll?
Councilmember Figueroa.
Present.
Councilmember Grassi. Councilmember McCluskey.
Here.
Councilmember Nani.
Here.
Councilmember Worthington.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Delisi.
Here.
Mayor Keel.
May I have a motion to excuse Councilmember Grassi and Mayor Keel?
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No? Hearing none, motion carries. At this time, Councilmember McCluskey, will you please lead us in Pledge of Allegiance?
All right, thank you. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Not hearing any, motion carries. At this time this evening, I have the great honor of introducing our Public Safety Administrator, Jennifer Hales, who has a presentation for the University Place detachment, police detachment.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Hacker here to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing tonight. Thank you.
Okay, as many of you know, this last spring, I taught some classes to the citizens of our city. Penny right here was kind enough to show up with her mom and her sister to actually all 5 of the classes. One of the classes that I taught was a firearms class, actually 2 of them. And after the class, she gave me a thank you card, and it had a painting that she did on it. The painting was of a sheepdog. Now, kind of what led up to this was an analogy that I talk about during my class. It's not a perfect analogy, but it goes something like this. Most people in our society are just sheep. They do what sheep do day after day. Like good citizens, they go to work, they obey the laws, come home, they take care of their families. Well, the people who prey on the good citizens are represented by the wolves. Now, the sheep don't like the wolves. The wolves have long, straight hair. They have sharp claws and sharp teeth. And again, the wolves represent the criminals of our society. Now, the sheepdog, that represents law enforcement, military personnel, and good law-abiding citizens who carry firearms. Now, people don't have a whole lot of respect a lot of time for military, police, or other good citizens who carry firearms, just like the sheep, even though they know that it's protected by the sheepdog, they don't really like the sheepdog either, because the sheepdog looks a lot like the wolf, has the long straight hair, the claws, and the sharp teeth. But even though it doesn't get the respect it deserves, oftentimes that sheepdog is still there to put itself in between the wolf and the sheep if that time comes. So Penny, again, was nice enough to give me a thank you card, and this thank you card was hand painted. It was a beautiful card, and so I mentioned that to Jennifer. Jennifer thought it'd be appropriate to contact Penny, and I'll let you tell that part of the story.
We were really moved in our law enforcement family, extended family, when we saw the thank you card. And, all you can do is ask. And so we reached out to Penny and her family and said, hey, would you be willing to do a sheepdog for us for our new lobby for our building so that we can share with the community and the people that visit us and the good citizens, all the sheep and the sheepdogs, this painting and what it represents. And Penny was kind enough to do that for us. So I'm going to let her say a few things. Let me hold the painting so everyone can see it.
I wanted to say thank you for the privilege of this opportunity. The inspiration for this painting came from Officer Hacker. I attended a firearms course that he taught, where he talked about the sheepdog and what it symbolizes. The art was originally on a small card that I drew as a thank you for him. I was then asked if I would do a painting for the department. And thank you for this opportunity and for your service and all other law enforcement officers' service. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much, Penny.
And on behalf of the University Place Police Department, we would like to extend one of these coins. And as you'll see, maybe on the back side, this is our police department coin, and on the back it has a sheepdog already on there. So as you can see, this kind of message, this analogy does mean a lot to us,
cool.
and so we really do appreciate the artwork as well for the PD. Thank
Thank
you for that.
you.
Wow. Thank you, guys. Excellent. Thank you. And at this time, our police chief, Primo, has a presentation for Citizens Taking Action Against Crime Award.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So it's kind of piggybacking off of that. We had a citizen recently that took some action that directly impacted an arrest. In this situation, the resident heard some noises late at night, actually outside of town center here. This was 2 o'clock in the morning. They just happened to be up at the time, looked out and was observing a couple individuals coming down the street here, vandalized actually a patrol car. So they did a good job of observing, actually yelled out to them to intervene in a safe way, which kind of scared off the perpetrators. But they were able to get a good description of the individual and called us right away. And the UP officers were able to intercept them and take them into custody. So the officers that were involved in the call nominated this citizen for this award, where we like to recognize citizens who take action in a safe way to help us out, because I think everybody would agree that it's a team effort. It's a partnership between the police and the citizens to maintain that safe community. The citizen, Rachel Brands is her name. She was not able to be here tonight, but we still wanted to take a moment to recognize her for her contribution to the safety of our community. And so there is a certificate that we give for this, and also a challenge coin, similar to the one we just gave Penny. So we'll be connecting with her later this week when she can make it down to the police department. So
Excellent.
thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Okay, at this time, I'm honored to make a presentation to our police department on behalf of Up for Arts. Before I come and give that presentation, I just want to give you a little bit of history. On August 22nd, the Up for Art groups held a chili cook-off at the United Church of Christ here in University Place, and they challenged the West Pierce Fire Department and the UP Police Department to a chili cook-off. Both teams were responsible for making 2 chilies, one vegetarian and one meat chili. And as a fundraiser for the Forever Friends campaign, individuals would purchase tickets to help judge this contest. Approximately 68 individuals in our community came out to judge the chili cook-off that evening. It was the first time that the Up for Arts group had done this chili cook-off as a way to raise funds. The Up for Art group is close to $35,000 within their goal of funding the Forever Friends statue for the current apple orchard. They had 44 volunteers that stepped forward to make sure that this event took place. They had high school students and NJROTC students there. United Church offered their facility and their kitchen so that the competitors could start out early in the morning cooking the chili for everybody. They had Sound Community Bank contribute towards the cause. And the Pat Tillman Memorial Post 53 American Legion Hall also contributed by donating the ice cream to the event. And then afterwards, we had a concert in the current apple orchard, which was attended by those that participated in the fundraiser, as well as community members that came out and provided additional donations for the ice cream at the event. So it was all in all a really successful event. But what was really wonderful is that our police department scored in first place for their meat chili and second place for the vegetarian. But they were so exhausted after, and the individuals that did the cooking was our former police chief, Mike Blair, who had our current chief, Greg Primo, in training that day. West Pierce Fire Department had the battalion chief, Scott Adams, there, Lance Nelson, Todd Rode, and the fire chief, Jim Sharp, in attendance. So it was 4 individuals on the side of the firefighters creating chili, and only 2 of our police officers that did it, and yet the police officers won hands down over the West Pierce Fire Department. It is hoped, based on discussion I had with numerous individuals at the event, I believe Councilmember Figueroa and Councilmember Worthington were also in attendance. It was well received by the community, and we're hoping that with all the volunteer enthusiasm, that this will become an annual fundraising event for Arts Group. And if that's the case, I hear that we have a chili connoisseur on council that we're hoping Mr. Figueroa can provide the expertise so that we can make it a 3-way competition next year. So
Watch out, Chief.
So with that, I'd like to call a representative for Art, Bunny Nance, and the fire chief forward, because you forgot your ribbon at the cook-off.
Enjoy it, Chief, because you won't get it next year.
Sounds to me like the challenge has been accepted. Okay, next item on the agenda is our public comments. Would our clerk please read the instructions?
At this time, citizens have 3 minutes to address the council on matters not scheduled for public hearing or council consideration. State law prohibits the use of this forum to promote or oppose any candidate for public office or ballot measure. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please provide your name and address for the record.
I have a Mr. David Deskins on the sign-up sheet. No problem. Take your time.
Just slide this one out, I guess.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
Okay.
Yeah. My name is David Deskins. I live at 7219 43rd Street West in University Place.
Could you please speak closer to the mic?
Sure, sure.
Thanks.
I saw the difficulty in your last study session, and I stepped right into it. So I've been a University Place resident for 42 years. My family has been here since the 50s. Same residence for me. But before I get started this evening, I'd like to extend uplifting thoughts and prayers for one of our absent council members and his family. And may they have enduring strength, know peace and healing across multiple endeavors. And if not for the unavoidable circumstances, I believe you would be at our class reunion in August. So I just wish him and his family the best. Our entire block has been trying to make these sessions. The last one was canceled on short notice and everybody was going to be there. So
We didn't make it after Labor Day, so I'm representing the entire block today. Most of these comments and questions are rhetorical, so they don't require an answer. If I am unable to see or confront the growing spasms of brokenness in our world, then quite possibly it is I who is broken. I had a chance to review the Council's recent study session, in fact, several times, as actually I have an irrefutable physical talent, and it's called sitting. You guys' very logical angst, doubt, uneasiness, and suspicion was evident in both look and in language. And I have much admiration for the efforts and passion of all participants. I especially appreciated some bold dissenting views as being included in the discussion. Firstly, it provokes an observation, as I see the potential for this to be only the beginning of losing the autonomy UP works so very hard to achieve. Somewhere behind closed doors, a lot further up the chain than you're allowed to be made aware of, what do you think that's out there that they see? That should be a consideration, one worthy of discussion. Do you actually believe this is just as simple as bureaucracy gone amok? I have a couple points to make, as my neighborhood is already feeling the heavy-handedness that you so convincingly conveyed. We have listened to executives, planners, and council members state that they are protecting single-family residences and there will be, quote, no impact on them as UP achieves the high-density, high-rise growth target requirements, which include an additional 45,000 people by 2035. No one has countered that single narrative or premise. My sincere questioning comment would be, is this myopic naivete, or is it shrouded prevarication? You should be aware, and there are those that are, that the apparent first attempt at high-rise, high-density abuts and looks down on our single-family homes and residences.
Mr. Deskin, can you please wrap up your comments? Your 3 minutes is up, unfortunately. Sorry. Can you provide your comments in writing to the council so that
I
we
just
can
as soon
review them?
speak to the council pro tem, Mayor.
Right, you have
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Yeah. It's not something you want to hear, I don't suppose.
Unfortunately, we have to provide equal opportunity for all citizens.
Like I
in
said, I'm
time.
representing our block
Yeah.
this afternoon, and there was a canceled late meeting notice last time, so we couldn't attend. So I represent the solidarity of our block.
I understand that. I'm asking.
Well, I would have been
yeah.
finished by now.
No, you surpassed the timer went off for your 3 minutes, sir.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
spoke past that.
Yeah, that's troublesome. That's maybe why we're losing what used to be known as.
I am requesting if you would like to provide your written statement to the council, and we will definitely review it.
I understand, AP. Thanks, that's it was.
I have Ms. Bunny Nance on the agenda.
Yeah, my name is Bunny Nance, 5818 75th Avenue Court West in University Place. I've been here for 40 plus years. I'm afraid my comments may seem a little frivolous at this point, but fall is beginning, and I just wanted to pass on to the grounds and maintenance people the appreciation that a lot of us have for the flower baskets, for the maintaining of the grounds throughout University Place, especially along Bridgeport, but everywhere else as well. It's been absolutely beautiful this year. And then also the addition of music in the atrium in the market square has just added a vibrancy to the city that is wonderful to see. And it's nice to know that we are a city. So thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address the council that did not sign up? Okay, not seeing any, I will close public comment at this time. We're on to the consent agenda item. May I have a motion to approve or amend the consent agenda as proposed?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as proposed.
Second?
I have a first and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays? Motion carries. Okay, at this time, our microphones are going off, so that means if council needs to, Emmy will turn the mics off. So if you need to speak, you will have to hit your speak button. We are in the council considerations section. It's item number 8 to rescind or amend the council member pro tem interview candidate list. With that, I will pass it on to our attorney, Matt Kaiser.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. Matt Kaiser, City Attorney. Following the last council meeting in August, in which the City Council had selected a slate of 5 names to go forward to, for interviews tentatively scheduled for next Monday for the position of council member pro tem, I received word that there was potentially 2 or more council members that wished to amend the slate by adding an additional name. This request appears on the agenda in response to that request. Just to provide councils a brief recap of where we're at, where we stand, and where things are set to go forward before I turn the floor back over to council. In August, council made the decision to proceed with an interview process for the council member pro tem position to serve in council member Grassi's absence. That term is concurrent with council member Grassi, or until such time as council member Grassi returns to the council. The application process was opened up for the council member pro tem position for nearly 2 weeks. Over that period of time, there were 13 applications which were received. The only qualifications to serve as a council member pro tem is that the applicant must be a registered voter at the time of the appointment and must have been a University Place resident for a year prior to the point of appointment. When we started this process during the month of August, council would indicate that it would interview no more than 7 candidates, and then following interviews, reduce that number to 2, and then ultimately 1 individual for selection. The timetable, our council reviewed the qualifications for the candidates at our last council meeting. After eliciting comments from all of the council, 5 candidates were invited to interview. Interviews are currently tentatively slated for a special meeting next Monday on the 9th. Following that, the appointment is tentatively slated for Monday the 16th at the regular meeting. As I stated, after the meeting occurred, I received word that there may be a desire to add an additional name. We are governed by Robert's Rules of Order. So, and because there's no legislation that council passed, the process follows Roberts. Under Roberts, the proper way to reconsider this action is through a motion to rescind and amend. Council is not required to take up the matter. However, it does require a majority of those present for here tonight. So with that, I will yield the floor back to council for consideration. If there's any additional questions, I'm likewise happy to answer those.
Okay. Council member, I think I just deleted Council Member Worthington. Yeah. There we go.
I was on there for a second.
Yeah, okay.
One more time.
All right.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor Belisi. Appreciate that. So I had I had contacted the city attorney and discussed this with another council member as well. I think at this point, in order to fully discuss this, motion's in order, and so I move that I move to amend the motion of the August 19th, 2019 regular council meeting that adopted to interview 5 applications for the position of council member pro tem by adding a 6th name, and that name is Howard Lee.
Second.
Okay, with that, did you have further discussion?
I do. So I wanted to share with council several things. I've had an opportunity to discuss this with Mr. Lee. I was concerned because the action the council took was perhaps technically correct, and believe me, it was unanimous. I said yes to this. The question really was, it wasn't in fact, a action that reflected what we know. It just didn't actually make sense to what we know to be facts. And here's the heart of the issue is Mr. Lee's application had not checked the box saying that he was a resident. The council members here, I think all have pretty much come to understand that over the time that Mr. Lee's been coming to our council meetings, the last 6 years to my knowledge, more or less the majority of them certainly, and more or less all of them, we've gotten to know him a bit. We also have Mr. Lee serving on our Police Advisory Commission, which requires residency in the city in order to serve. When he inadvertently left the box blank, or perhaps some other reason it was left blank, we had our own sets of information that knew that wasn't correct. But in my own mind, I didn't pursue that, and I feel as though I should have. This is an opportunity to correct what I think is an error. I did have a chance to discuss that with Mr. Lee as well, and he provided some additional information. The information he provided was that the city's application process, being online, had some peculiarities in the application, and the fonts were varied between one box and another. And he attempted to straighten that out, spent a good deal of time at that, was having some success but not a lot of success, contacted the director of the department responsible for that, asked for assistance there. The director wasn't immediately able to provide assistance, but I've, through one source or another, confirmed that, in fact, the director was contacted, and that phone call was made. There was a discussion that was had. And it would appear, at least in my mind, that that box became unchecked, so rather than not checked at all. But reality of it all, it just doesn't make good sense when we know that the candidate is, in fact, a resident of our community, but through some either Scribner's error, oversight, or technical issue, it becomes a statement that we take at face value when, in fact, we know it isn't true. Mr. Lee is, in fact, a resident of our community and has been for approximately 40 years. So, with that in mind, I would ask that council consider adding his name to be interviewed, and that's my reasoning.
Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I hope that this doesn't go beyond. I was the motion. I'm the other council member that made comment to the administration and bringing back this motion. And I hope it doesn't have further discussion than us making this and having them approved. When this process started, we said we would have up to 7 names. And this doesn't exceed the 7 names. Gives us 6 names. Thus, it's just like any other candidates that we move forward because we did not exceed the 7 names. We really didn't go through any debate or discussion. There was just if somebody put them in there, put the name forward, that was it. So I hope that after I'm done, that's ends the discussion. If not, I'll call for the question because I think that it'd be appropriate to give this candidate the same rights as any of the other candidates as having their name put forward and be done with. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from?
Call for the question.
I would like other individuals an opportunity to speak if they so choose.
I think that's just call for the question.
A request for a call for the question requires a 2/3 vote in order to terminate debate. And that motion itself is non-debatable.
Yeah.
Take the vote.
And I'm not hearing a second.
No.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember McCluskey.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Before we took the vote, I would like to concur with Councilmember Worthington in regards to Mr. Lee. He was the only applicant that noted something amiss with the application and took it on his own accord to try to resolve it. And he has been actively engaged in our community. He designed and implemented the teddy bear picnic, and he's been an active community voice. He's engaged in several of our police ballot issues, our park ballot issues, and he has worked extremely hard doorbelling and promoting all of our city issues as well. So for a oversight, I would like to reconsider and place him on as the 6th name on our interview list.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Not hearing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. At this time, it's City Council, it is the City Manager report. Mr. Sugg.
Point of order?
Yes.
I just have a question. The point of order.
Oh, we didn't do public comment. I'm sorry.
The public comment. No, I was.
I forgot that. Yes, point of order taken. At this time, we will be doing our vote again. So at this time, if there's public that wishes to comment on this issue, can you step forward? Not seeing any public comment is closed. Okay, now we're under consideration again. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Sorry for that.
No, that's okay.
I should read my notes here. That
Just
would
want
help.
it to be official, right?
Okay, City Manager report, Mr. Sugg.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, public. In the fall of 2018, when council adopted the 2019-2020 biennial budget, one of your areas of strategic focus was building a strong financial baseline. Well, as you know, mortgage rates have dropped dramatically recently, and the same can be said for government bond rates. Following the increase in our bond rating, which happened recently as well, staff has been contacted by the city's bond underwriter about the potential of refinancing both our LRF bonds, local revitalization financing bonds, and our 2012 general obligation bonds. Well, it looks like there is the potential for us to maintain the same repayment term but realize an annual savings to the general fund of approximately $115,000 per year and generate approximately $2 million in new money for additional town center LRF infrastructure projects. We will be evaluating all of this over the next few weeks and will return to council with a proposal if these options prove feasible. So I'm giving you some relatively recent information which happened within the past day or so. Secondly, moving on to capital projects, we have one more construction project to do for this year, and that's the 67th Avenue overlay. This is a federally funded project between 37th Street and 44th Street. Construction is to begin next week, and it'll last about a month. The total value of the project is slightly less than $500,000, and we have local funds providing about a 20% match. Just wanted to let you know that, and the public, that there will be some construction, traffic control during construction as the road is being prepared as well as paved. So that's my report.
Thank you. At this time, are there any comments from council? Councilmember McCluskey. Whoops, I think I turned her off again. No. Huh? You didn't? Okay. Councilmember Worthington.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Blisi. Let's see. So, wanted to touch on one particular thing, and that is a flash vote. We continue with that. We had a grid outreach dealing with park questions last week. Hopefully, some of the council members or all the council members participated. As of Friday, we had 320 folks signed up on flash vote. And that's about 20 more than the week before, and that week was 20 more than the week before that. So we're seeing some pretty steady growth in that. And that 320, that's getting us close to our goal of 500 or more. Also, the participation in last week's questions on having to do with our parks, 70% of our registered users participated. And they had some 35 comments as well. So it was a great turnout. I think it was roughly 278 or so folks that commented. And it's a program that people are, I think, finding some strong interest in. And we're gaining a good set of information to help this council and the community think about its future and help base some future decisions on. So just wanted to share that. Some continued good news there. Thank you very much to the staff and actually, since Bunny is here, thank you, Bunny. I know with you and your colleagues' efforts at our information booth that's putting out, that's helping keep things fresh. So we appreciate that. And there's other ways we're pushing that information out too. I should have worn my Flash Vote T-shirt tonight, but we'll keep pushing it, and we're glad to see the participation. That's all I wanted to share.
Excellent. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just want to give out a shout to Steve Sugg and his team that worked really hard and put in the concert series together on the last 4 Thursdays. It was well received. And Wednesdays, excuse me, thank you. Last 4 Wednesdays. It was well received. It brought a lot of community members together to what I feel is a hometown gathering of our market square. Though it's a small market square, it really provided for some real conversations and people visiting with each other. There was people outside of UP that came, but most of the people that showed up that I could tell was from UP. A lot of positive signs indicating that they wished for it to continue. They understand about the rain and the cold and all that, but certainly they asked about next year. So I think that certainly this council, the members that I've spoken to, certainly will support that. But you did a great job, Steve, and the staff did, in listening and hearing, like adding the lights, the music, the sound, just everything that we could all tell that you were making changes to provide a better experience, more tables, more chairs, and you could tell. That being said, I certainly would look forward to next year. Thank you.
Any other council members with updates? Okay, not seeing any. I'll give you some updates. Yeah, the music on the square was fabulous, and the weather was wonderful. Even that one night where we had a little bit of sprinkle, staff had gone into Plan B and had some covered seating for people. So for next year, anybody that missed the concert this year or attended the concerts and is interested, stay tuned. We do take your comments into consideration, and I think we will hopefully be looking at some partnerships with our local businesses to see that this continues for next year. It was definitely a wonderful experience. Well, I wanted to give you some updates on some local events in UP that I've attended over the last month. August was a fairly busy month. But on the 24th of August, we had our first pop-up night market behind Brassfields. That was really nice. There were about possibly 10 tents there in the evening and some food trucks, and it seemed to be well attended by residents. The next market will be on the 14th from 6 to 9 behind Brassfield. So mark your calendar, and if there's enough interest and attendance in this market, I think the organizer of this market will have the wherewithal and the enthusiasm to make sure that we see this as a weekly or possibly monthly event next year. So I would encourage anybody that has commented on our flash votes and emails and stuff looking for a market, for UP market, your attendance is what gets the organizer of the event to have tents at a market situation. So please mark your calendar for the 14th from 6 to 9 behind Brassfields. On Sunday the 25th, it was our current cider squeeze. We've had over 55 volunteers, including students from Curtis High School, that helped to organize and run the event. We also had military partners that participated as volunteers. This is a highly volunteer-driven activity and takes a lot of time and enthusiasm and coordination, of course, with our city staff to get this event going. Sunset Bible Church provided the band that played, and both the music and the weather could not have been better for this event. Attendance was at an all-time high. They even had to shut down the press line earlier than anticipated because they had so many people coming through pressing apples that day. Trader Joe's has always been a real contributor and volunteer for our events and a supporter. They were there that day providing goodies for the event volunteers and just keeping the enthusiasm level going. I want to thank all the press operators that donated their presses and time for the event. They were on their feet basically from noon until well past closing time, ensuring that everybody that was in line got their apples pressed. I've got to thank the core volunteers for organizing this event. It takes an entire year to get this thing organized, a lot of work in getting the trees pruned and prepped for the event, and then making sure that all the attendees at the event can get through and get their apples pressed. So thanks again for a wonderful event, and I've got to say the cider squeeze, that people always pick the best weekend for it. I don't think I've ever gone to an event where it has rained during that week. On the 26th of August, I had the honor of cutting the ribbon for our Trek bike that is located here in the village. And I was talking with the manager of the store and was very interested to learn, as a non-biker, that Trek Bike has over 220 worldwide retail storefronts throughout the world. I believe they've got 4 or 5 even in Saudi Arabia. As a non-biker, that was just astounding to me. Try as he might, I did not purchase an electric bike. I'm still not convinced that it's going to get me up the hills here in the Puget Sound area. But I'll keep visiting, and maybe one day he'll convince me. But something also interesting, even though they sell their own manufactured Trek bikes at the facility, for those of you that do have bikes and are looking for a place to get your bike serviced, they service all types of bikes at Bike Trek, so you don't have to travel across to Tacoma or up into King County to get your bike serviced. And they were busy at servicing bikes on Monday when I was there. Just to give people information, on the 12th of September from 6:30 to 8:30, the League of Women Voters is having a candidate forum debate at Curtis High School Theater, where you can have an opportunity to hear candidates for City Council, as well as, I believe, Clover Park School District. Why in UP, I don't know, but they will be included. So mark your calendars if you are interested in meeting your potential candidates. September 14th, Curtis NJROTC cadets are having a car wash at Jiffy Lube from 11 to before that day. And I got to tell you, I had my car just washed here last week by them, and they did a wonderful job. So hopefully you can come and help support their program. My understanding is that the school district does not support their extracurricular activities, and this is their only way to fund their basic leadership training, etc. So if you, like I said, need your car washed or are interested in supporting their leadership program, September 14th from 11 to 4. The first Fall Up for Art concert is September 27th in the atrium from 7 to 9 p.m. If you're not a member, it's $15 per person. If you are a member, it is free. So come and join in. It's a lot of local talent, and you can continue the vibes from our Music on the Square at the Up for Art concert. And then I know this is way out there, but people's calendars get busy as fall goes on. Please mark October 11th as our first annual Oktoberfest at the market in Market Square here in the village. It'll be from 5 to 9 p.m. We will have a food truck, we will have oompa music, and just a basic overall Oktoberfest feel. There will be lights and heat lamps and covers, so despite the rain or possible cold, we should have a good time. So, and I understand that our Anthem coffee shop will be selling beer for the event that evening, so it will be true Oktoberfest. So get the lederhosen out and your jindals, and let's have a good time and show them that UP can celebrate just like the Germans in Munich. With that, that's the end of my comments. We at this time will adjourn into study session. The council will have an opportunity to study and discuss business issues with staff prior to its consideration. Citizen comment is not taken at this time. However, citizens will have an opportunity to comment on the events at future council meetings. With that, I would like to call up Lisa Patoric. We are going to be discussing the University Place refuse recycling update. And I understand you also have some other individuals joining you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This evening, Michael Gruner, Roger Gruner, and Neil Holden are here, although I believe Michael and Neil will be providing most of the presentation this evening. They are here to provide an update regarding the recycling surcharge that was put in place earlier this year. So they're providing updated information regarding that, among some other information. So with that, I will turn it over to these three folks.
Yeah.
Sorry to get me after all.
Yeah. Well, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Is that
Well, while he's doing that, do I need to push this?
Yeah.
There we
you go.
While
And
he's doing
speak,
that,
have it close up too.
I want to say thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and the rest of the council members for this opportunity to bring you up to speed on our recycling dilemma, recycling issues that we have as far as the whole China dropping out of the purchasing of the materials and caught the whole industry off guard. So they'll cover the details, and I will spout off every once in a while.
I just thought I'd start with a little recap of what happened, why we're here. And that was, again, the commodity pricing dropped just dramatically. The 12 years prior that we had been doing the commingled program, we experienced a price of about $49 a ton is what we received when we sold the materials. And it fluctuated up and down, but we always received something. And that was just kind of accepted. That's just the way it was. Well, then 2 years ago, it dropped below zero, and it went down to when we asked for the recycling commodity surcharge, at that point we were paying $76 a ton. So not only did we lose the $49 a ton, but we were paying $76 a ton for the benefit of taking the material to a recycling plant. What that did was we used that test period. It was a 12-month test period, and that amount, we asked only for the amount that we had to pay. We just felt we would absorb the cost because it was never addressed in the contract. So we just we absorbed that risk down to zero is what but then after it got below zero, then we asked this body for some relief. And as a result, that $76 a ton that we were paying equated to a 2.57% surcharge on all base rates of the contract. So you asked us to come back and update you. And what has happened since then is the market has dropped even further. However, it has come back slightly, not much. We're now paying about $92 a ton to get rid of the material. So this 9 months since that test period equates to about a 33% further drop from where we were when we came to you the last time. So that's what that would mean is that 2.57% surcharge, if we were to use this test period right now, it'd be about a 3.42% surcharge. That is approximately 80 cents on the average cost per residential customer, and so that's the basis of it. Does anyone have any questions about that?
Any clarification from council? Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Holden, part of our comments or discussion, whatever you want to call it, on the last time you were here was, where are we going? I think you painted a pretty good picture. It's gotten worse since last time. And so the key now is, for me at least, I'm thinking is for most of the council members and our citizens especially, and that is, what's the future? Last time you came asking for us to okay a certain surcharge because of this, and we approved it. What is it that we're going to be looking at, and any further requests in the future? Since the picture went from $76 a ton to you're paying $92, and so and the rate increase that we approved made you hold at 76 a ton.
It brought us from 76 a ton that we were paying to back to zero.
Back to zero.
Yeah, we didn't get us the 49.
No, correct. No,
right.
Correct. Yeah. But it got you down to zero.
Right.
So, but now there's a gap between 76 and 92, which you're eating, correct? Maybe that's not the right words, but
with surcharges, we're catching up. It's
correct.
Behind.
So are we expecting? Is that something you'll be able to do as a company to continue to pay that 92, or or until it lowers itself to 76 or further below? Is that something you can absorb, or are we going to have other conversations other than this presentation?
Well, I guess what right now what we're doing is we are really recouping the money that we spent for the prior year. That's what we're doing right now, but it was based on known and measurable, and that's why we did it that way, because we could show you that's what we spent. Right now, we don't know what we're spending until we spend it, because it does change somewhat. So, well, having said that, I would expect that because that was for a one-year period only. That's what the surcharge was. And so that would end at the end of February. And so, but the test period is before that. So we would know, we only have about 3 more months, and we will know, we'll have another 12-month period then at that point. So that's what I would expect, unless something drastically changes, that we would come back and ask for a renewal of that at the time we do our rate increase.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think you answered it.
Councilmember Worthington.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Blisi. So a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Let me start more on the global side of things. So China's stopped taking everything in terms of recyclables. Other markets have not, or just are beginning to emerge now, and I'm kind of looking for confirmation if that's true or not. And where are those other markets in a global perspective? And then there's apparently quite a bit of backlog, both in your facility and every other community in this country. So how long does that take to be absorbed? Then I have a couple of other questions that are more specific to here. But one of the reasons we'd asked you back, and by the way, thank you all for coming back, I appreciate that, is the world going to change much between January or February, whichever the date was, when we first heard about this, and today? And so I wanted to hear just a little bit more about the global perspective side of that.
Well, the reality is what we have to deal with is what is available here locally. We have no control over what happens overseas, and so we're fortunate being a port city that we do have multiple outlets. Mm-hmm. But if it's the overseas markets that are soft, then everything else is too. That impacts us here locally. I know that there are some plants coming online, but it's such a vast quantity, and it will. I expect it will, but how long will that take? Don't know. If there's a resource there, then someone will utilize that resource. And right now, it should be an attractive resource when people are paying that much to get rid of it.
So waiting for the entrepreneurs to step up, figure out a way to deal with that resource and make some money out of it. And hopefully that's a local, in the U.S. Type of situation. But we have some flexibility given our, there's some backhaul of empty containers that might be relatively cheap to put some product in and take them someplace that might do something with it. Is that kind of what I'm hearing?
Again, locally, we've got about 3 outlets that we can go to, and realistically, for us to haul it, you're incurring significant additional cost in equipment and investment and handling to get it to a condition whereby we can transport it any kind of distance at all.
So, are some communities, I get a sense, are beginning to sort of rethink the recycling ethic that we've developed over the last 30 years, and sort of deciding maybe we need to sort differently, maybe we need to recognize there are no markets. Here in Pierce County, there are no markets for certain things. There's some things. Aluminum is a classic example. Yeah, you can move aluminum. You can probably move cardboard, I guess. Far better about this than I do, but some other things, there's no place to go with it. So that's where if we have a mindset shift because of that, a number of things will change for us, and I'm not sure how that happens or if we're really headed there, or if somehow China starts saying, yes, we'll take it back. What's your crystal ball say about such things?
Well, I think it will come back. When and how quickly is the question. And I think one thing that I would like to point out is that Pierce County put together the first countywide recycling program in the nation. And it was expected, all the experts told us we would get 65% of our customers to participate. Immediately we had about 92%. And it was wildly successful. And when I say that, I'm not even talking about what we have right now, our commingled program. I'm talking about the old stacking bin system that we did. This is 1990, and we were really on the cutting edge. I guess I'm saying all that to say that the area loves recycling, and it's been successful at it. I don't want to panic at this point as far as I don't think we should throw out the baby with the bathwater at this point. I know there are some communities that are not that are dropping recycling for the time being. I don't know that there are any. I know Tacoma actually looked at several options regarding that, but at this point, I think that they're going to continue. They're going to drop the glass out of their program.
So when we think about things here in University Place, I wanted to get some context what's happening out in the world, whether this is a 6 month, fix, or a year, or 5 years, and it's more to that longer range side of things. Maybe they'll be back, but there's a backlog. It's going to be counted. The issue is going to be around for several years at a minimum, is what I take from that. And so as we think about how to get a situation where your business is sustainable, which is in everyone's interest, then so we can have places so you can take away our waste products and deal with them in a responsible way. That's important to everyone. Then we just need to think about that as a longer-term solution and all. One particular specific question I had was, you mentioned the end of the test period is about 3 months from now, and so is that the beginning of November, the end of November? Anybody recall when that is? And
So what was I think it was October.
It's through October.
It's through October? Okay,
Yes.
Great. So, all right. I mentioned that just because if we have that rate surcharge in place and it disappears in February, in the amount of time it takes for us to get something on the agenda and to get information in place for it to be on the agenda, that's almost you need to do it like tomorrow type thing. At least there be a gap. But I just wanted to make sure you were aware of the timing issues. That's no one in particular's fault. It's just the reality of how systems gets designed. Okay, that's all I have for now.
What we would do is just do it as a part of our annual rate adjustment that we already do anyway. So that way it's all in one package. Yeah.
But along that same line, my recommendation is to not do the surcharge any longer, but to change our contract so that we have that fixed within the contract, just like our annual adjustment is already in the contract, so that we're not catching up all the time. We're doing a number based on what the current number is. We use it like our formula that we have for our other rate increases. And so, I mean, that's my recommendation, that we address our contract. We actually renew our contract sooner than later, because currently the contract calls for it to be renewed in 2021 or begin the discussion in 2021. but I would say, I would recommend, if you would consider it, to do that sooner than later and include that clause within it so that we're not doing this catch-up all the time. And then the unknown. Once we address it and fix it and put it in there, it's there. We don't have to continue to come back to you and have the same discussion over and over again.
Councilmember Nye.
Thanks, Mayor. You said it's $92 a ton for recycling material. What is it per ton for non-recycling material?
For garbage, you mean?
Yeah, garbage.
It's, well, it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be, what do I have on there? $179 a ton, and which actually is another issue that's on that sheet that I handed you that we still need to correct an incorrect tonnage figure, but we'll deal with that in a minute. Yeah, it's about $179 a ton for disposal.
So, and there's no law or regulation that we have to recycle?
No.
Okay. Thanks, man.
You're encouraged to. I mean, the
Okay,
state.
Could our citizens have an option if we decided not to do the recycling, would there be an option for them to recycle themselves to?
Well, here's how it works. It's the way it was set up originally in 1990, and we still follow that same pattern. And that is one of the reasons that our program was so wildly successful in Pierce County was the decision to benefit the customer for recycling. In other words, if they chose garbage only versus garbage and recycling, the customer who chose the garbage and recycling was going to pay less than the customer who only had garbage service. So in other words, those customers would help subsidize the recycling.
Thank you.
So they can still do that. They don't have to have recycling. They pay more if they don't. And that was one of the aspects that people like that, because they recognize this is a bit of, takes a little effort to do this. And so thereby they got benefited a little bit.
Well, you guys do really, really, really well to get our stuff from the curbside to where you send it. You got any recommendation how to get our teenagers to get it from the house to the road? Because if you could solve that problem, we probably, you'd do really, really well.
We have concierge service. We'll come in and pick up your teenager and set him out at the curb.
And the teenager? Thank you.
Councilmember McCluskey.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Well, this is an interesting dilemma, recycling, and I really don't foresee the China market ever opening up to our commingles because they're really unusable. And as a good steward of the cleaning up not only our community but also the world, why would we want to do that? And I think we need to be a little more forward-thinking than that. So I'm not banking on China opening up again. I want our citizens to understand and do the right thing so that, and it comes to a good strategic marketing plan, and University Place can be forerunners in that, working hand in hand with UP Refuge, our city media team and our citizens, and even maybe the Solid Waste Advisory Commission can use us as a pilot program as well, so that we can be really serious about when we buy something from a vendor, we may also make that one choice. Do we want the waste that comes with that little toy that's this size, the packages is this size, it's double sealed, double wrapped, you can't even get into it unless you have a jigsaw to open it up, and when you open it up, oh my God, it has little plastic things stuck into it with little screws on the back. For something that costs 10 cents. That's ridiculous. So it can even, we can partner with our schools, and some of our high schoolers are really interested in recycling. We get letters from the city council from our high school students interested in eliminating our plastics. And so that might be a way to engage our whole entire community with this effort, because as you stated, Mr. Holden, we were almost at 100% going out the door with recycling. So we are serious about wanting to clean up our environment. And so that's the first thing I would like to see evolve out of this discussion. And I don't like surcharges, because I don't like always chasing tail on things, and you never know whether it's going to be a long tail or a short tail that you're going to be ending up with. So I'm toying with the idea of doing a contract of negotiation sooner than later, if it includes an educational program and marketing strategy, that we can have partnerships with our community members so that we can be smart when we go about doing this. I think it's a paradigm shift, and it's already came, and we're behind the curveball. So we need to catch up on this. I also am very interested in keeping UP Refuge a viable concern in the future. You've been hand-to-hand working with us as a community on many levels and in many endeavors. There's value to our community having your business here outside of your own return on your investment. So those are kind of my current thoughts right now. I've spoken to Mr. Gruner about these, and I'm always one that will love to roll up my sleeves to help with keeping our environment cleaner and more sustainable in the future as well. And you guys have done a great job going out in the community at our events, just demonstrating what amazing things that land in our landfill that could be reused instead of dumped. So thank you for those efforts, and those are my comments, Mayor Pro Tem. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Holden and the gang up there, I guess, is out of all the recycled bits that you see coming from our city, does any one particular item or items come out as been the most recycled? Let's just give you an example, and then where I'm heading. Plastic bags. I know that when I go to the store and I get plastic bags, I have no use for them other than getting. So,
I want them.
And I know that many cities have banned plastic bags because of that. Maybe not of that, but for some reasons. But so I'm kind of curious of, are you able to detect if plastic bags is a bulk item that you see coming through, or is it publications, phone books? Maybe we can stop that. What is the most, and it gets back to your education, and for ours too, is what is it that maybe we can do as a city is say we're not going to accept that anymore because it's really clogging up the recycling program.
Well, you have to realize we do have a region, well, an area-wide cohesive message that's really put forth by Pierce County. So we makes the most sense to just really utilize what they're doing. Otherwise, it's one of the issues that we have, of course, is that King County does their own thing, and they'll run ads, and it's not the same as we do things here. Yeah, put your pizza box in your yard waste. Go ahead and do that. No, we don't do that. Well, why is that? Well, because we have good compost. Theirs is not. So, I mean, that's what you find. Different areas do things differently. So part of what's worked well with Pierce County is the fact that it isn't a top-down approach. They get the stakeholders together. And
Maybe I didn't communicate this properly.
Okay.
That's not what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Is out of all the stuff that residents put in the recycling bins,
Yeah.
cardboard, plastic, plastic bags versus plastic bottles, advertisement, paper, which one actually stands out as the most recycled item?
I would say single item, it would be cardboard.
Cardboard.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was
By
looking
volume,
at.
for sure.
That's interesting.
without question.
Okay, I would have guessed something else, but
Yeah.
now that being said, the cardboard coming from like what kind of item? Because you're saying that stands out. What is it that is? Is it the pizza boxes, or what? Because I don't use a lot of cardboard. But
most of the boxes
okay.
have a
So
smile.
I'm trying to figure that out, and the reason is I'm heading towards what actions do we need to take as a council if we can take action and saying, enough. If you're going to Amazon, infiltrate our recycling program to the point that we're paying out of pocket, then we need to put a resolution, send a letter to Amazon, and maybe AWC. Effort and saying all the cities should, send letters to Amazon says stop, slow down, figure something else out other than, adding to a real recycling problem, if that happens to be. And I can see where that is because we do get a lot of Amazon. It's just like it goes in the garbage, right? Okay.
So I know the MRFs, the Materials Recovery Facility that we take our recycling to, they have absolutely no problem with the cardboard. They love the cardboard.
That's right.
They make money from the cardboard. What they have problems with are the things that we don't accept in the recycling, but they're put in there anyway. Like you mentioned, the plastic bags. Plastic bags cost MRFs millions of dollars a year because they have these filters on the screening machines, and those plastic bags act like gum on those filters.
Okay, so here's this conversation is heading. The education part that Denise talked about, you got to educate us. See, you said number one recycling thing is cardboard, but that's a good thing. People love it. They'll take that.
Right.
All right? But so maybe because I don't know your language, as Shuka said, what recycling item really gunks up the program that nobody really wants that is most common in the residential arena? And you're saying plastic bags?
Plastic bags that, for example, I drove a recycling route 2 months ago. And 50% at least of the carts that I dumped contained plastic bags, whether that was the material itself bagged in a garbage bag and then tied up and thrown in the cart. More of that than actual loose grocery type garbage bags.
Okay.
Those, we don't accept those, but yet half of the customers out there continue to do that. Overwhelming amount.
See, that's an education part because I don't think, I didn't know that.
Yes.
So it's an education part that she's talking about, that if that really is bad, people don't know is bad. I think most people will just throw it in the garbage. They're trying to be nice, and they don't know any better. So those are the things that I believe that we need to partner up in educating, and also for us to be educated so that we can maybe pass policies, ordinances that would assist with this recycling, because it's not going to get better. I really believe, sorry, all due respect, Mr. Holden, but the recycling is just not going to get any better. It's going to get worse. And so it is backed up. The oceans is full of it, all right? They don't know what to do with it. And it's across America. And we're not the only country. So that being said, I think that we have to be forward-thinking and start thinking about how do we slow it down. At least for our community, we can make a dent on our own, for our own citizens. But I think that we need to really, in the next coming year, really partner up and have some study sessions and figure out how we can deal with this so that we can be at least from not being this surcharge. I don't think it's going to get less. It's going to get more. So as the population grows, and it will grow. So thank you.
Are there any other comments from council? Well, most of the council members asked the questions that I had on my list. What item in our recycle is currently the item that's most backlogged, that is unused, or is sitting there waiting for a manufacturer to buy and reuse?
Well, my understanding right now is the plastic bottles are, they're having a hard time with the markets of those, because of course, the place we take it, they sort it right here. We have the plants that are here locally.
So if our citizens that drink water would use a reusable water bottle as opposed to a bottle such as this each and every time they needed a drink, that would help solve some of that backlog, correct?
Yes.
So it is definitely an education campaign. And I think an education campaign is also how to reuse some of the stuff that we get. For instance, the plastic single-use bags. I use those bags in multiple ways. I use it in my bathroom for my trash bin there, instead of buying the heavy-duty plastic, which would be the only other option I would have if we did away with those single-use bags. So I'm reusing it. I reuse it for the stinky garbage that I don't want my neighbors to smell as I'm toting my bag down to the garbage chute. You know, I use it when I send off the goodies to my kids at home, and they have been trained over the years to reuse those bags also. So I think we need to get our heads together and come up with a good way to educate people not only on how to recycle, but how to reuse. And as Councilmember McCluskey said, how to think before you buy. Instead of buying single-use yogurt cups for your children's lunch, buy a bigger container and divvy it out in their lunches. I've done that for years. You not only save money, but you also save on the recycling end. So I would like you guys to really strategize on how we can utilize our city resources as well as your opportunity in your bill to do it, and maybe we can utilize our UPTV to do a segment that we can run on reuse as opposed to recycle message. So, because I don't foresee this coming to a good head and changing anytime soon. We got way ahead of the game and relied too much on our foreign recycling program and didn't develop the system here in the U.S. to reuse it. And personally feel that we sold our citizens a bill of goods when we told them we were recycling, when in fact we were shipping stuff overseas. We weren't recycling here in this country, with the exception of possibly our paper and our cardboard.
Right.
You know, and so we now have our citizens in the habit of recycling, and to get them out of that habit, so in 10 years' time when the market comes up, it's a re-education campaign altogether. We are all in this together, and it costs. This stuff costs. Garbage costs. We've got infrastructure in place that needs to house our garbage. We have an infrastructure in place for the recycling, but we can help minimize the recycling through taking personal initiative and educating ourselves on it. But I do want to say, as an individual that was a homeowner and is now in an apartment, it is extremely difficult for apartment dwellers to do the recycling in an efficient manner. We do have recycling bins, but it's a lot more effort, and I do see a lot of unnecessary waste, particularly in stuff that is easily recyclable, the cardboard and the paper, and it ends up in the trash. So when you think of your education campaign, keep in mind that you have a large segment of our population that live in condos or in apartments where they don't necessarily have immediate control or access to things, and it's so much easier to walk down the hall and put it in the chute than it is to take it downstairs into the recycling bin. So I look forward to the continued conversation, and I would like to see, instead of being behind the 8 ball in your fee, that you get to where you're even keel, so we don't have this constant fluctuation. It's not a good way to do business, to go into the hole and then recoup over an extended period of time. So I look forward to seeing what those numbers are going to be for this next period, and maybe we can, like Councilmember McCluskey, look at doing something that is more sustainable and understandable to our citizens also, because the fluctuation in their bill, ups and ups without any sort of plan, I think is very hard for a lot of them to swallow. So do we have any other comments before I thank the gentleman? Yes. Oh, are you on there? Okay, back to Councilmember McCluskey.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Councilmember Worthington, because I did want to let you know that I might know a contact at Curtis High School, that she has a group of young students there. They're quite interested in recycling and learning more about it, and also maybe being part of this. I think it's exciting that we're going to look at how we consume our goods and how we also dispose of them as a question of whether we purchase or not, so that our world can become a cleaner planet at the end of the day and be able to sustain itself at healthier levels for health and well-being. I think China has actually given us a gift. And so if we take a step back and we accept that with gratitude, we can move on, and our community will be a lot better for it. And if China decides to come back, we can tell them no. We can take care of our own stuff. They'll have to look to their own population of millions to figure out how they can glean some of the plastics to remake it and ship it back over to us. If we would like it at that time, we may be a little more particular at that point in time. So please do contact me, and maybe we can partner. I have lots of different ideas on how we can do this behavioral chain dynamics, and I think the trend is already happening. We're on that cusp. So let's get our surfboards out and let's ride the wave together. Thank you.
You have any additional comments?
Well, I kind of failed the fact that we actually had a PowerPoint presentation here, but which sorry, I'm a little old school, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think all of us on the council saw it, so.
Okay, very good.
Yeah,
all right, then the only other thing, when we did our, this a separate issue, it's item 1 on that sheet that I handed out to you. When we do our rate increases, everything's set on, it's based on a formula. It's a CPI, and then it has to do with what the dump fee change has been at land recovery, where we take the garbage. Well, this year we submitted there's a sheet that we use that has the formulas for the dump fee, and this is for drop boxes and compactor customers. So they're the big commercial customers. Anyway, that was submitted. The formulas and the calculations were submitted. However, the rate didn't get changed on the rate tariff sheet. So and it wasn't discovered until May, about in May, and of course this all came into effect March 1st. So here we are in September, and we still haven't been able to correct it, and I need to get it. I really need to get it corrected. I think we need to have some way to do that a little more in a more streamlined fashion when something like this comes up. But, so as of this time, I still don't have any word from staff as to what the next step is, other than the fact that I'm telling you, and you were the ones who had to review it, is my understanding of the initial rate our rate adjustments. So what I guess the question I ask you is, what would the next step be to get that corrected?
Well, at the next agenda setting meeting, myself and the mayor will discuss this
Okay.
with staff and see what the next course of action
Okay.
can be.
All right. Last thing is, we have never, with our residential customers, when people had asked for an additional recycling container, there was never a charge. We would just give it to them. It isn't really required by our contract. I mean, but we always did that. Now, because of the market conditions, we're asking for a $15 charge per month on an additional container. The first one is included in the garbage rate, but each additional one, that's what we're asking for. So.
That'll be same as the previous request. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions or concerns from council? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, for showing up.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Giving us an update. And with that, I am closing this meeting.